Hi, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at some of the first national head-to-head polling we've got between Harris and Trump. As you may be able to tell, I'm still trying to recover my voice, hopefully in time for a live stream next week. I had a couple of videos in production before Biden dropped. Some of those still might be released. Later, we've got an Ipsos poll. This is first going to be from CNN. The headline is Harris improves on Biden's performance against Trump in early look at new matchup. So as we go down here, since Biden got out of the race, that's probably the best news Democrats have had all year. It looked like he was headed for a very likely defeat. Pretty much anybody would have been better than Biden. So now that he's out, Dems finally have something to look forward to, so there's going to be excitement. Now, what that means is the polling is not really going to matter that much for the next couple of weeks, maybe even longer than that. It's been so crazy this past month, but with Harris expected to be the nominee, I would expect her to have a little bit of a bump. Is it going to be enough to beat Trump? Not yet, but she can improve over the next couple of months, or she could sink back down close to where Biden is. Anything is possible, but let's see what the poll says. So nationally, Trump is at 49, Harris is at 46, and that's within the margin of error. And no surprise, voters are supportive of Biden stepping aside, but there's still going to be some divides that remain. Now, this poll was taken July 22nd and the 23rd, so after Biden dropped. And it says the previous poll had Biden leading by 6, so 3 points is a bit of a reduction. But we're going to need to see a bunch of swing state polling because that's where the election is actually going to be won or lost. 4 years ago, Trump really never led any national head-to-head polls. So if he's tied or even trailing by a couple, he could absolutely still win this election in the swing states. So it says Harris hangs on to 95% of those who earlier said they supported Biden, while Trump retains the support of a slightly smaller 92% of his backers. Those who previously said they would neither support Biden or Trump now split for Harris 30 to 27, and the rest say they would vote for someone else or opt out. 50% of those voters say their vote is more in support of Harris than against Donald Trump. That is a big shift. Previously, we had Biden supporters voting only against Trump, not necessarily in favor of Biden. My expectation is those numbers will change as the weeks and months go on. Waiting for the polling to stabilize is going to be critical. The only problem is every couple of weeks, something dramatic keeps shaking up the race. On the other side, 74% of Trump supporters are voting in favor of Trump as opposed to against Harris. That's an increase from the June poll where it was at 66. And also, over the past few weeks, we've had the Trump assassination attempt and the Republican National Convention. So Trump's favorability has actually ticked up to 43%, higher than it's been since 2020. Next, it says the poll also suggests that Trump's support among his strongest groups is holding steady, even as his opponent changes. 67% of white voters without college degrees support him over Harris. With Biden, it was 66. He gets a majority of men, 53 versus Harris. With Biden, it was 54. And he gets 90% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents against Harris versus 89 against Biden. Now with Harris, among supporters younger than 45, 43% say their vote is more in support of her than against Trump. That's up from 28% of Biden voters in that same group. So then we've got a chart here. Voters age 18 to 34. They're breaking for Harris 47 to 43. Previously, they were breaking for Trump 49 to 42. Black voters are going for Harris 78 to 15. Previously, they were going 70 to 23. And female voters with Harris, it's 50 to 45. When Biden was in there, it was even at 46. So again, there could easily be some trade-offs here. Harris could do better with black voters. She could do worse with white voters. Plus, all the other demographic groups are going to be in question. And then I'll point out here, it says independent voters who broke 47% Trump to 37 Biden in prior polls are now split 46% Trump to 43% Harris. That narrowed gap is driven at least partly by increased Harris support among independents who lean toward the Democratic Party. Then they go more into Harris and some of the behind-the-scenes happenings with the Democrats, and if she should continue Biden's policies or go in a different direction. I'm going to scroll through this real quick. Feel free to pause it if you'd like, and as always, all the links will be down below in the description. But as I said, this has just happened. We've got to let a few weeks go by to let the campaign take shape. Then the Democratic Convention is going to happen. That could also give Harris a small bounce. It's really not going to be until after Labor Day where everybody actually starts paying full attention to these two candidates and the state of the race. It doesn't mean things have to change, but given what we've seen, you've got to expect the unexpected. So that kind of glosses over this CNN poll, and it was done with 1,631 registered voters. Now let's move on to this Reuters Ipsos poll. The headline here is Harris leads Trump 44 to 42. So again, given Democrats have been trailing in pretty much every single national poll with very few exceptions, them getting a lead out of this has got to feel great. And as always, these are just one or two polls. Take them somewhat with a grain of salt. So the previous poll actually had Biden with a 2-point deficit. This one has Trump with a 2-point deficit. And they also have a poll from July 15th and the 16th where both Harris and Trump were tied at 44. So there's a lot of polls that have come out. It's easy easy to get lost in the data. It says a pollster with Trump's campaign played down any polling that showed an increase in Harris's support, arguing that she was likely to see a temporary rise in popularity because of the widespread media coverage of her new candidacy. It's hard to really disagree with that. I've seen some coverage, a lot of it seems to be glowing, but it's not like Harris has not been a part of this administration up until now. She was a part of everything, and voters have generally been highly dissatisfied with the way things are going. So if you put a new face on the same issues, does that change the state of the race? We still don't know. It says 56% of registered voters agreed with the statement that Harris, age 59, was mentally sharp and able to deal with challenges, compared to 49% who said the same about Trump, age 78. I mean, at this point, Trump is the old guy in the race. However, so many Democrats were defending Biden up until that debate performance. After that, there was still a split. As I said, after that debate, Trump looks like he's 30 years younger than Biden. So I do think the age issue does become much lower once Biden has exited the race. The cognitive issues are what was dominating and not necessarily his age. 80% of Democratic voters said they viewed Biden favorably, compared to 91% who said the same of Harris. 3/4 of Democratic voters said they agreed with the statement that the party and voters should get behind Harris now, with only a quarter saying multiple candidates should compete for the party's nomination. I still don't really think they had an actual primary, so we're probably never really going to know who voters would support. However, Harris did run in 2020 for president, and she didn't even really go anywhere. She dropped out before her home state. So at least back then, there was no support for Harris. Once they throw Kennedy into the mix, then Harris leads 42-38. Kennedy pulls in 8%. Then they asked about some of the potential running mates for Harris. And once you get into that, there's going to be a good chunk of voters that have never heard of some of those potential candidates. So this poll was conducted online, and they ended up with 1,018 registered voters. So as always, there's going to be more data you can look through, cross tabs, etc. But this is some of the initial polling we've gotten following Biden dropping out. It's nearly impossible to put out any kind of a confident prediction with so many things changing week to week. We also need to take a look at some of the individual states, but even regardless of that, we got to see what's going to happen in a month or two. That's how much time we need for the dust to settle and let these campaigns reset after all the stuff that's happened over the past month. So we don't know what's going to happen. Neither side should be excited, worried, or feel complacent. There's enough data points for each side to feel both optimistic as well as pessimistic. Let's give it some time. That's a look at a couple of these new polls with Harris against Trump. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about these polls? Are you buying the new data? Is Harris going to start leading in every one of these polls, including the swing states, or is this a temporary bump and things are going to change and Trump is going to maintain his momentum? What are you expecting? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.